Welcome to our Savvy series. I'm Catherine Magana here with Rachel Ivanovich, and we are here again this week. And gosh, this last week it's been interesting.
Been busy.
We went to the Cool Women event for Girl Scouts and met some amazing women. And Rachel here was a past recipient of the Cool Woman Award.
I'm a cool woman,
Yes.
they say.
So that's always fun and inspiring to meet other female entrepreneurs and just hearing their stories.
Absolutely, but also to see how they're supporting the emerging leader Girl Scouts. And these young ladies are so inspiring and gave me such hope for the future.
I know. And then, so I have a daughter who's 15, and I'm thinking, oh, great, I want her to take part in that program.
Yes,
I think she can do it next year.
Next year, when she's a junior or senior.
Yeah, so I definitely was looking at that. This is the first time I actually went in person. I went online when they had it on Zoom a couple years ago. That was the year that you won your award. But this is the first time I went in person, and I was like, oh, I definitely enjoyed being there and the energy, and it just seems like it felt like it was pre-COVID. So.
Yes, being together in the room, it energizes you.
Yeah.
So we just love women. That's why we went to the event. So let's talk today a little bit about how men and women invest differently. We were just having a funny conversation about
it's interesting. Kind of some things that when we look at kind of retirement and there's, here that women tend to be a little more conservative in their investment choices. And so that's something that we should be aware of and think about. And it's interesting, not every woman is more conservative, but in general, and this is things that we see, women tend to view money a little differently than men. And so we wanted to kind of have a little conversation about that today.
I actually even, in my little research here before, we sat down together, I read an article that women technically, they really want to hear about finance in plain English. Yeah. And so we're here to educate, we want to inspire you to learn more. And so let's just talk a little bit about how men and women differ in the way they invest.
Yeah, and I think what we find is sometimes men have a little bit more exposure to stocks than women. And so it's interesting that I came across a Fidelity study that showed there was 500 million accounts over 10 years, found that women actually had a slight edge over men.
I read that too.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I feel like, wow, that's it's good to know. And it said men trade 45% more than women. And so, once again, I think understanding what you're investing in and why. I think part of it is what I found was, sometimes women aren't reactive, so they kind of, stick with the plan or don't make a lot of changes. And so that kind of, could be one of the reasons why that takes place. But in general, the study also said that 66% of men versus only 48% of women invest in the stock market.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I think it's changed. I've seen over the years more, but still I think that's it's interesting to see the differences on who's invested and who's not. As we've done a lot of workshops, we actually have another Retirement by Design workop this afternoon at lunch. Yes. And so what we find is when we have these workshops and we talk, is that sometimes women don't really know where to begin or they don't understand and they want to learn. And so I feel like sometimes when in any decision, anything that you invest in personally, professionally, that if you don't understand what it is that you're doing or why, then you're not going to, do anything. And so I feel like that's kind of our job is, to educate and make you feel comfortable about money and having those conversations. Because once again, yes, CDs are great and it might be a small portion, but having all of your money in one thing isn't, ideally going to help you in the long run.
Well, one of the things I was thinking of as we were leading up to today was women aren't in. We have different generations, and the women of today they're not our grandmothers and our mothers. And so we're really excited to see the young ladies, such as the Emerging Leader Girl Scouts, being empowered. And so one of the things I was looking at is what are they spending money on versus men? And so there are actually a lot of differences. There are a lot of studies out there that talks about women are spending a little bit more money when it comes to home ownership versus men who spend more on transportation and cars.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
So, and one of the things that the studies was talking about is that women, a lot of the female clients want to prioritize security and stability in their finances, whereas men may want to, it looks like based on these studies that I'm reading, they're spending more money on entertainment.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that was interesting that, that there are a lot of differences in spending, but it, like we were talking about with clients this week, looking at our budgets and, fine tuning those budgets. And
the hard part with budgeting or lifestyle is nobody wants to do it, but the
Yes.
reality is, I think once you start doing it, it's kind of like, it becomes like a game. It's like, oh, where am I
it's
spending
totally
my
a
money?
game.
And this is kind of, to me, it's fun.
It's,
but,
for me, it's fun too.
but I'm not sure if everybody would say the same thing. But I think what I have heard in the past is sometimes clients will come back and say, oh, I didn't realize I was spending more.
much money there.
Yeah, and we do
Yes.
this when we meet with clients and prospective clients, that they said, they give us a ballpark what they think, and then they go do the exercise and they go, oh, I was actually off a little bit, and I was
$3,000.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised.
Yeah.
And so I think when we get used to our day-to-day expenses, but we don't realize all those extras, like
Pets.
pets or family or gifts or travel or and things cost a little bit more now too, which is something.
Factor in for inflation.
And so part of the study I found too was said 55% of men are more aggressive investors compared with 39% of women, and that.
But therefore, women actually are outperforming men because
Yeah.
they're not changing their investments.
And that's what they're really, really they stay the course, and they kind of
Yes.
understand, kind of more of, this is why I'm doing it. So once again, not good, bad, just a little different.
Just different.
Yeah,
and
how
maybe
we
we're complementing each other.
and how we approach things and look at things a little differently. And I think that part of, one of the reasons why we are advocates for helping women learn about money and investing is we don't expect you to know every little thing, but we want you to feel comfortable enough so that when
Be
you do
educated.
when you do make those decisions, you're like, okay, I now know why I'm doing this. And we don't, like I said, everyone's, has different professions and things that they focus on and enjoy. But I think what I find is sometimes you don't make any decisions if you don't understand why or what's the purpose. So once again, that's what we're here for, is to educate. We don't expect you to know everything, but know enough to make those well-informed decisions. So it's kind of looking at the markets, kind of as we're approaching the end of the quarter. Here we are at the end of March. Looks like the S&P 500, which is one of the indexes that we follow, for this quarter, this month, it's actually up over almost 3%, over 3%, and for the year, we're up almost 10%. So a lot, yeah. It's been a really good first quarter. I can't say it's going to stay this way, but obviously, between now and the end of the year, a lot could happen. I know we've been keeping our eye on Fed and interest rates, and we think potentially in June there might be some changes with interest rates. So we're all on standby. Everyone's kind of watching that, but I think a lot of that's been priced into the markets already. But we are here. Once again, we do live workshops once a month. I think our next month we're going to go back to an evening one. Yeah, so next month it's April 25th in the evening at, I think, 5:30. We're having a little get together again. So. Once again, happy to have you join us in person for our workshops. Listen to our podcast, or if you want to chat, we're here to talk.
And in the meantime, I'm watching the tax deadline.
I know, it's like,
We've
oh
got
man,
18 more days before deadline. So this is the time, if you have not filed your tax return yet, you still have time to file. Yeah. If you live in San Diego County, you have until June 17th, 2024 to file. But there are extensions available if you don't have your paperwork together and need more time to file your taxes. Just make sure, if you think you're going to owe money or if things have significantly changed, that you reach out to a qualified advisor so that you don't have to pay any penalties, because just because you have an extension doesn't mean you have an extension of time to pay. So you actually have to estimate how much you think you're going to owe and make that payment before the deadline. And if you have a lot of investment income where there's no withholding, or if you've taken required minimum distributions without withholding, or if you sold an asset, a property, and there's a big amount of income, you want to make sure that you, in 2024, if that's already happened this first quarter, you have 2 weeks to make a payment for your first quarter to cover that income.
Like tax season comes by so quickly every year.
And it just goes and goes, and then it starts all over again.
I know. So. Okay, great. Well, once again, if you'd like to reach us, we're also available for a consultation or a quick phone call. You can reach us at 760-692-5190. And until next time, thank you. Savvy up. Please stay tuned for important regulatory disclosures.
Savvy Women Wealth Management is an SEC registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry and how we may be able to assist. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. As always, please remember investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Tax considerations presented may not be appropriate for every individual circumstance. A tax professional should be consulted before making any decisions about your tax liability.